Hi guys, welcome back to Hashtime with Nabuguzi Chwanka. I am your host, Nabuguzi Chwanka, and today we'll be talking about the coronavirus pandemic and its toll on mental health. Following the days after the crisis bubbled out of China into the world, a lot has changed. The headlines and the news highlights are all about the coronavirus, quarantine, and the lockdown. We have also found ourselves in constant anticipation for the presidential addresses than ever before. We have been directed to stay in our homes, and although staying at home or self-isolation flattens the curve, it does not mean that coping with the disruption in our normal routine is easy. Amidst this global turmoil, the enforcement of lockdowns and quarantine in various countries has left an incalculable number of people struggling with panic, anxiety, and fear. The coronavirus has not only affected our physical health but also our mental health. On Easter, I read my worry into reality. Daily Mail covered a story on a 15-year-old girl who killed herself after struggling with the pressure to cope with stay-at-home orders during California's coronavirus lockdown. What was previously 14 days for us in Uganda turned into 35 days yesterday, and we do not know if it will go into 90 days. For some who dismissed mental health as a non-African topic or trivial matter in our societies, the subject has become so central to them that they are seeking help, which seems to be far from reach. This has fueled conversations surrounding emotional feelings, and on the show today we have a clinical psychologist from Makerere University, Miss Lynda Nakalawa. She's also a co-founder of Free to Live, an organization promoting mental health and lifestyle for adolescents and young people in Uganda. Lynda is one of the psychologists who is one of the Ugandan Lynda is one of the Ugandan psychologists who have decided to give back to society in these times of uncertainty by offering free online counseling services to anyone in regards to mental health until the end of the lockdown. She was kind enough to allow a recorded phone conversation with me, answering the various queries posed by some of you. This episode is divided into 3: personal care, care for the loved ones, and care during the post-COVID times. I hope you pick out the various tips to help you to go through these times and the post times for the times to come. Listen in. Thank you so much, Lynda, for being part of Hashtime with Nabuguzi Chwanka.
You're welcome, Nabuguzi Chwanka. So fancy.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. That's your African name. It is. I really like that.
I'm really dying to be identified as such officially.
Wonderful. Good speed with that.
Amen. First of all, how are you doing in all this? The lockdown and the quarantine, the pandemic?
I would be unfair if I say that I had much to complain about. I really do have a lot of support.
Yeah.
I think I was prepared for the quarantine. I did see it coming. The fact that I work at the university, of course, a little earlier, so I was already in place before it started. And also working with the people that have responded to the offer of free online counseling has been therapeutic even for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Amazing on your end. How do you balance the pandemic fright and the call to serve?
One of the things that really helps me is knowing that I am doing my bit. I may not be able to do the research and find a cure. I may not serve everybody. I may not even reach some of the people that need my services. But one of the things I have had to learn, and it was a tough lesson, is to assess myself based on have I done my best? You know, and that's me. That's Lynda as a therapist. Have I done my best for the people that I have come in contact with? Have I contributed? That's very empowering that way.
Okay. So we got a couple of questions from different people, and Kylie is asking how you're holding up. She imagines it must be tiring on taking on everyone's mental and emotional energy.
As a student, I had to learn early how to. We had lessons about sympathy versus empathy. With sympathy, it is cry with you, feel your pain, you know, and really show you that I feel your pain and I literally take on your pain. Empathy, I do walk a mile as much as possible in your shoes, but it is also more useful to step out of your shoes and actually be able to lend a helping hand. So when it comes to helping, as a helper, one of the tough lessons that I have had to learn is, first of all, the relationship is not about me and my feelings about the situation. I need to, on top of helping the person feel understood, I need to empower them to work through the situation. So sometimes I'm simply a sounding board to help people think through issues, sometimes to give feedback, sometimes to give information, sometimes to teach or to train. The therapeutic relationship is not about me, and that's something that I always have to remember. And it has the effect of keeping me sober-minded and keeping it about the other person. And at the end of the day, I can get out of one counseling situation and be able to move to the next. But also being, having become better, like I mentioned earlier, at protecting my own mental health. It's sort of an intricate, you know, day to day, but very important, especially with the number of people that need help right now.
I can understand. So for the very many people that opened doors for during this lockdown to your free counseling services, what are the common stresses you've had from people, and what's the impact of stress on our physiological?
I will put them as categories. There is the category of pre-existing mental health conditions before the lockdown, before the advent of corona, that have been exacerbated by the fear, you know, related to corona, the anxiety, depression. Someone has a pre-existing trauma from before, and substance abuse issues. Family members are bringing that up. You know, it's getting more and more problematic. And there's the other category of people that did not know that they had, that did not recognize. You know how in Africa we think that these things are for white people.
I know.
So people did not know that maybe it was possible for them to experience depression or anxiety, and now they're waking up to the idea, and it's a very confusing time, and some people don't know what is happening to them. So, you know, they need a lot of help and understanding how to navigate this sort of whole new world. The other category is the psychosocial issues that are related to being locked in place. Relationships are having quite a lot of strain, either because how people they feel like they are stuck in one small space together, so navigating the relationship becomes complicated. Sometimes existing issues with family relationships are being really, really emphasized. The other side of it is with people that unfortunately have not been able to get in the same physical space with their loved ones, so are. And then there is the idea that now a number of people are sitting down and reflecting on their lives, because you can only feed your time, mind with so much. Inevitably, either before you fall asleep, you're going to think about, okay, what is my life all about, or what is my relationship all about, what's going to happen to my job, and those reflections, unfortunately, for some people, are causing a number of uncomfortable thoughts. So those are the categories that I can think about.
Initially, previously I was talking to someone, and I told him that the extroverts are now being forced to become introverts, and everything is becoming very hard for them. The next question is from Gloria, and she's asking about anxiety, what it is, the causes and the effects.
That's a question that normally takes me 45 hours, a full semester to answer, but let's hit the highlights. Anxiety comes from one's perception of a situation. If you perceive a situation as threatening to you, then you are going to get scared. You're going to have fears about it. And really that's what anxiety is about, fear. Okay? And the thoughts and the scary thoughts about the situation. So again, as per that brief definition, what causes it is your perception of the situation. The situation in reality may not be life-threatening or threatening to your future or to your career. But if you perceive it as so, if you see it as threatening, then you're going to get anxious. On the other hand, someone might actually be going through a life-threatening situation, but because they, either with help or personal characteristics, or for one reason or another, if they do not see it as threatening, if they feel there is a way out, they may not suffer from as much anxiety. So again, as per the definition, one of the ways to deal with anxiety is to deal with the way you think about a situation. I have had conversations with people about the way they see, for example, this corona situation. Do you see it as something are there things that are in your control? And if they do not see things that are in their control, it has been a bit helpful to give examples of things that people can do that do not need another person, that do not need money. For example, if you're going to stand in the sun and get vitamin D, and that is going to help your mood. If you are going to exercise, if you're going to reach out to your loved ones, if you are going to follow the Ministry of Health guidelines, that gives someone back a sense of control. And help to reduce their anxiety. And another thing that some people have done really well in some of the conversations that we have had is to think back to situations in the past where you come out of it, one. Two, you actually grew in that situation. So having those kind of conversations have helped people to think differently about a situation and therefore to start to reduce the anxiety. When you talk about it, it sounds simplistic, but that's the basis upon which all these other skills come in as therapists.
Okay, so basically what you're saying, you've actually covered how to also deal with anxiety, you know, in what you're answering to Gloria's, when you're answering Gloria's question. So in short, what you said is the best way someone can cope with anxiety during this corona period, whether you're confined
Mm.
or you're living alone, the best way is to find the things that you have control of.
Yes, and appreciate them.
Oh, and appreciate them.
Yes, and to question really the things that you do not have control over. We call it reality testing. What is the reality? You might have this fear that the disease is going to sweep over the whole nation and we are all going to die. Okay, and that can be really, really scary. Okay, but when you start to reality test, when you start to question that fear, you realize, okay, one, the disease does not move if we do not move it.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can interrupt that scary thought. And, you think about, okay, what is the reality of this fear? And sometimes the fear is real and even with other people. But then we find another step. You either change the situation or you change yourself. Feeling helpless is what causes problems.
Wow.
Yes.
Quite insightful. So we have Kayesu Claire here, and she's asking whether mood swings are linked to mental health.
Beg your pardon on that one?
We have Kayesu asking if mood swings are linked to mental health, and if so, how?
If what is linked to mental health? Sorry, we had a bit of distraction there.
Oh, sorry. If mood swings are linked to mental health.
Well, mood is an aspect of thinking, mental health. So the short answer is yes. And let me give an example with depression.
Yeah.
A person that is living with depression, although they experience sadness all day, every day, for 2 weeks. That's the short form when I was in school that we would use to describe,
That's really
someone getting the diagnosis of depression. They might feel slightly less weighed down towards the middle of the day than earlier in the day. So essentially their mood, has shifted.
Oh, yeah.
And in a very severe case, we might have you heard about bipolar disorder?
Yes, I've heard of the bipolar disorder.
Yes, and it's basically a pendulum from very high energy and speed of thought and, talking so fast and seeming to be excited, but excited, not happy. It's very easy for someone to switch from laughing loudly to crying bitterly. And then on the other side is the spectrum of low mood and depression. So, moods are very intricately tied to mental health.
Okay. So you've been talking about the coronavirus pandemic, the lockdown, and its effects on mental health. So someone is asking, Josephine is asking, whether idleness affects one's mental health. But from what you've shared, what I get out of it is having the person to themselves and then starting to rethink everything related to their life, and all of a sudden everything weighs them down. So this is where the anxiety comes from and the depression comes in.
Yes.
I don't know.
By that, I do not want to undermine the benefits of reflection. Just having a quiet time to sit and think through things. I'm not trying to fill in every single moment and space with an activity, with social media, with TV, with stuff, It can be quite healing for you to sit and simply be and simply think, okay? But sometimes for some people, that thinking can be problematic,
Yeah.
If you do not have something to do, or if you do not practice replacing negative thoughts with positive ones, then being idle can be quite problematic.
Everything starts thinking in a completely negative way for some people.
Yeah.
And then we have Helen asking, hello?
Hello, I'm here.
Oh, it's like I have buttons.
You thought that had happened.
We have Helen asking about people who already had episodes of depression. She's saying that these times are harder, and she's asking about how the idleness. Oh, we've actually covered this, how the idleness triggers it more. But how do we deal with the depression? Is there a method, or is it still going back to... Hello?
We just have to... Well, everyone's situation is different, but one of the things I can say about dealing with depression is you may not feel like, and it depends on the level of depression. I know that some people can be so depressed that they need hospitalization, they need, medication. But some people are able to get out of bed. It's important to get out of bed whether you feel like it or not. So all these things that we do in self-care, they do help with depression. We talked about getting out in the sun, getting some exercise. You may not feel like jumping up and down at all when you feel low, but it is very important that you take at least a step, and to appreciate your effort for that, and to reach out to someone for help. Those are some of the most difficult things. To force yourself to look on the outside of you, because a lot of times when we are depressed, we are focusing on the inside and how we feel and how it hurts and all these thoughts and the past and how the future is scary and all that is going on inside me.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I have found helpful is to challenge my clients to look on the outside. What's happening with your sister? What's happening with, and are there some good things that are happening out there? It takes practice. Sometimes it takes practice with another person, but ultimately the individual has to do the work. And the good news is that over time you get better at doing this work, and the lessons you learn, they help you across many situations.
Wow. So you're saying that finding more about what's happening on the external world is helpful, inclusive of finding good news.
Yes.
Oh, so it's more like lightening your mood and taking you out of your inner self.
Yes, that's very well put.
Okay, I think that's people need to be trying that. I think I do it quite often. I like to call myself nosy. Keep finding out how people are doing. I want to know how they're holding up.
Yes, although I that's not. Well, again, it takes a bit of practice and guidance, because if you are dealing with depression and you're finding out how all these other people are doing, unless you're perceiving it as helping, and helping another individual is very healing to ourselves. But if you are finding out how another person is doing and they tell you they are doing so badly, and you take it that, the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket, that is going to make it worse for you. So
there is actually someone who has that. She's going through that kind of thing. Oh. So we have the media going around, social media.
Yes, that was a huge sigh. That was a huge sign of the beach, Monica. And I hope I am not putting you down. The good thing, it's very important to focus on the fact that there is help.
Yeah.
And the fact that human beings have been wired to survive, you know, and especially when they call on a higher power, you know, and I'll say it as I believe it, when they call on God, when they call on their faith, you know, ultimately, because there's lots of things that you cannot manage. But I've been a clinical psychologist for the past 10 years, and it is amazing the progress that people can make. You know, and those kind of stories, they keep me going also as a therapist. So the situation is not hopeless.
It really isn't. Now we have we have one thing that I am also tired of. The forwarded messages talking about how the world is ending. I have a lady that I know of who is making her kids get more scared. People are talking about conspiracy theories. The most current one is the 5G and cheers. So everyone is scared, and then you don't even. I think, you know, when we consume a lot of media, sometimes we don't even know how to see what is right and what is wrong. Whatever comes our way, we keep feeling like it is the right information, because I think even given the person who is even sending on the information, because we trust them, that's number one. But then, much as we trust them, we do not trust the source, because they did not author that kind of message to you. They just forwarded it.
They just, sure.
Sometimes we just want, you know, to alert you. It's not that they're doing it in bad faith, but people don't realize that. We have not come to a point where we see what is right and what is wrong. I don't know if there is a particular way a therapist could advise someone to deal with the negative media coverage.
First of all, I used the word ruthless.
Ruthless.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
It is actually a fight for your mental health. Okay? And you are well within your rights to tell someone, even someone you trust, that, you know what, I love you to bits, but it is important for me not to deal with this information. I cannot do anything to change it. So please do not forward me this kind of information. Okay? But just to back up the fears about 5G, the world is ending. Number one, let us not scare the children. Whatever we do, they do not have the same kind of resources that we have as yet to get into a situation and get out of it cognitively. And that's one of the things that I worry about, that even after this coronavirus thing is put to bed, we are still going to have to look out for symptoms of trauma among children. You know, so parents need to be responsible for their children. But remember how we talked about reality testing?
Yes, we did.
Let's use an example with the whole 5G world is ending, God help us situation. Okay?
Yeah.
So the world is ending, and you believe that because you have very strong Christian beliefs.
Yeah.
Okay? The world is ending because God created it, and at some point it had to end, right?
Okay.
And according to what people are saying, there is all this suffering and etc. that is coming. But can we step back and explore that a little deeper? In that thought, it's a package deal. There is also a belief in God.
Yes.
Okay? All powerful God. And the Christian belief about God is love.
Yeah.
God is all wise. And God has a plan.
Yeah.
And He is faithful. So you see, it's one thing to look at, the world is ending, oh God. You didn't say, oh God, because you believe God is able to help you.
Yeah.
So how about you also focus on the things that the world is ending threat? What is the promise there? The promise there is that then there is no more suffering.
Oh.
The promise there is then His kingdom come.
No one is ready for the kingdom.
Nobody is ready for the kingdom. But then again, that comes with all this self-doubt of, am I enough?
Yeah.
And not any stretch of the imagination, okay? I am a teacher.
Yes,
and even when it comes to Christian beliefs and the Bible, I want to study the scriptures, and the teacher in me still comes out. Okay?
Yeah.
The same Bible that tells you to repent or perish also tells you that your righteousness is of God through faith.
Yeah.
And it says somewhere else in the Bible that I have not asked you to call on me in vain. Okay?
Okay.
And if we were able to be righteous and, we could do it, then what was the purpose of Christ? We need to actually believe what we believe.
Yeah.
God is love. Perfect love drives out all fear. I do not believe God called me to believe Him and to try to live, to depend on Him, for Him to finally say at the end, oops, sorry, you were not ready for the end of the world, so yeah. He's actually more interested in me going to heaven than I am, if that's even possible, because I really, really, really want to go to heaven.
Wow.
So again, this is reality testing. If what is written in the Bible, the scary bits, you believe them so much, do you also believe the promises therein? That's the psychologist in me needing the teacher.
I feel like, the bits of the Bible where we incline ourselves more, the books in the Bible, but when...
Hello, Nabuguzi.
Hello.
Oh, okay.
When I think about Revelation, it's horrific in my head,
Yeah.
And now, because of this time, there is a person reading Revelations to the child, and they're telling them the world is ending, but God is there. Like, oh my goodness, you guys.
I think you read Revelation is very sobering for everyone.
Yeah.
And also read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These are 4 different people writing an account, a story. It's not just some fantasy, but something that really happened. God's plan of salvation for the world. If we are going to believe something, let us believe the promises. Let us believe the salvation in there. And I'm going to say something really sensitive.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there are so many people out there that are on a power trip.
On what?
Are on a power trip with the whole Christianity thing.
Okay.
And they need to feel, I'm the one who knows God more than you.
Oh.
So you better listen to what I am saying.
Yeah.
And what better way to capture people's attention than to say very many scary things.
Wow.
So yes, hell is scary. The wages of sin is death. But am I helpless in face of of that.
Mm.
If the Bible tells me that faithful is he who called me, that is what it is. He is faithful.
Mm.
And if the Bible tells me in Hebrews that we do not have a great high priest who is unable to feel with us, and basically he feels what I feel, including the temptation and the weakness. Difference is he was without sin, but if he thought he could do it, he could have stopped at being born and helped Bartimaeus see again and all these nice things, and then not died.
Mm.
But he went ahead and saw that, okay, fine, I can be tempted and be without sin, but I still do need to die because these people that my Father loves so much do not have the same power as me. We cannot sacrificing animals, and that curtain was torn.
Yeah.
Because he did pay the ultimate price. I cannot live. And why am I saying this so much? Why is it turning out to be such a discussion for us? As a child, as a teenager, I suffered from severe depression. I was always sick and they couldn't find anything wrong with me. But the source of my problems, the source of the fear, I was depressed to the point of hearing voices, and I was calling these voices God.
Wow.
And these were scary voices that would tell me to fast and pray and try to impress God.
Whoa.
You see? Because I was reading all the threats, you will die if you do not do ABCD, but I was not reading the promises.
Whoa.
The greatest lesson I ever learned in life is that God is love.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm.
And even with all the fear that is going around, can we remember that perfect love drives out all fear? What does God expect me to do? And someone put it so beautifully for me.
Mm.
By some weird opportunity by some weird opportunity the world was ending tomorrow, God still expects me to do that which he has placed before me to the best of my ability, but above all to trust him, to depend on him. So can we talk about the God of love?
And
the God of love who is able to keep us from falling. This is what the Bible tells us. He is able to make me love the things that he loves. Does that mean that I go on sinning? No.
No.
But it means that I depend on him. And so I cannot boast if I'm not robbing banks. I cannot boast if I am not killing people because it's only by grace. Now we go to Chiwanuka. You realize these are all things that the Bible says.
I do realize.
You know?
The way how you call me birthday.
I trust you. That's really good. I'm going to keep saying it. I just love it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is a very empowering moment.
I pray so.
It's very empowering.
It comes from a very personal place for me.
Yeah.
So nobody calls the shots when it comes to the grace of God. And we really need to point people towards God, not ourselves. Not hang out in my church or you're doomed.
Oh yeah.
I have that secret.
Oh yeah.
That has caused us too many problems.
People fail to experience God. They're experiencing fellow human beings.
And now I'm going to stop it right here because I'm not going to get into a conversation about pastors. Okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Without any respect to them.
Yeah, it's very okay.
But you see, that's the reality testing we are talking about, and checking the facts for yourself. I'm so reminded of that song, Anjagaza Yayagala Ansanyuse Enakuzona. He makes me love what he loves. You see, God is able to put in us a desire for holiness. Are we going to fall every once in a while or more than once in a while? Yes. But do we surprise God? No.
He knows it.
So we can't pray the childish prayer of God, please help me not to sin. Or please let me go to heaven. It's so much fun, but please help me. Anyway, please. I'm sure people want to hear the answers to the rest of the questions you had.
Okay, I think now we've sort of covered the toxic people, negative and toxic people, but now we have, but we've only talked about it in relation to parent-child. Now we're looking at possibly an adult. How do you deal with negative toxic people with whom you're quarantined?
I advised, one of the problems we have, we are infinitely polite.
Okay.
But, and so we worry about hurting people's feelings, and we do that at the cost of our own feelings.
That's right.
Imagine you were in a room and a lion appeared on one side. How calmly and how many excuse me's and please let me pass and please go before me would there be as people try to get out of that room?
None.
So in this time, when you are low on resources to cope, you will be forgiven for deliberately keeping quiet, getting up and going into the other room, putting headphones in your ears, and refusing to engage. If you cannot engage in a conversation where the other person understands that this is hurtful, at least for this time, when you do not have any other resources to draw on, do what it takes to refuse to engage, to get yourself in a different place, whether physically or emotionally. It is a fight for your mental health. And I know that might be perceived as creating more toxicity and etc. But there is time later when, we can move, when you can move in and out of a situation and you have more resources and you have probably someone who can help you to sit down and deal with issues, If there is really, really, really no way to sit down and have a heart-to-heart with this person, then you might be better off not engaging. I don't mean that run away from situations, don't talk to your kids, don't talk to your wife. I would encourage that as much as possible, get the feelings out and really sit down and talk through issues, but only to the extent that it is helpful. But sometimes you can appreciate that you're too low on emotional resources, so take a break, go into the other room. Listen to music instead. If the rest of the people in the house are fighting, put earphones and put music. Cope yourself out of the short term. It really is not harmful. It doesn't mean that becomes your coping strategy. But if you have no other way out, it's okay to consider that. Wow. That's scary. It scares me.
No, because now I'm imagining.
I worry that we are not giving hope here.
No. We are giving hope, but now there is. Wow. I'm imagining my mind went to a possibility of someone trying to take themselves away from a situation. And now I'm looking at it from a parent's perspective, parent-child perspective, whereby there are children who are adults in the house, right? The same way how I live with my mother. but now there is a possibility that the parent is toxic. And now when you do something like that, when you take, it gets more complex. They start feeling very much more offended. How dare you do that? You're in my house. And then you don't even have anywhere to go in such a time. You're not given options to leave in this lockdown.
I'm hearing a statement in my head that, Mommy, I really do love you. Yeah. I really do respect you. And this is on me. I find I do not have the strength to do what is expected of me right now. Can I have a moment? Can I have a moment to be silent, to be by myself? I want to do better.
Yeah.
I'm just not able to right now. But then again, like you have said, Nabukuzi Chiwanuka, there are as many situations as the day is long.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that I would encourage someone to reach out and to a therapist.
Oh, yeah.
To, learn how to deal with. This is not a sort of one-shot thing, There's a difference between therapy and counseling.
Okay.
Yeah. And therapy is more long-term, it's more intensive, it's more tied to personal, specific individual situations. Counseling can be giving information, might even be listening,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're moving on to the next one. There's Noah. He's asking how he can keep his level head. How do I keep a level head? I keep having the urge to get out of the house. I think I'll be getting out of the house once in a while, but I know the whole village. It sounds like he's tired of the monotony.
Well, there are different avenues. You can get out of the house because, well, you do know that now you cannot keep loitering around.
Yeah.
So it's not that you are not able to go out of the house. There's this nice poster that I have seen on social media about cognitive restructuring. Fancy name for think about it differently.
I've learned that.
So is it that I cannot get out of the house, or I am staying here to do my bit to contribute to not moving the virus around, to contribute to safety, And which other ways can I get out of the house? I can get out of the house and travel to the Philippines on TV. Okay, through social media, etc.
Yeah.
If I need to feel the sun on my skin, I do not need to walk to the town, to the village square or whatever it is. I can stand on my veranda, I can go into a different room. It takes practice, and we all find a pattern that works for us. And maybe not doing the same thing for too long.
Yeah.
And finding out how other people are coping. We are going to get very creative with keeping our own company
by
the end of this. Yeah.
I've seen that. Very many people have become social media content people. They're creating so much content in this period.
Thank you. So many books are being written.
Oh, that part too. And podcasts are being recorded.
That's me and you,
Sure. So there's another person, Father JC. He fears there is a possibility of him becoming antisocial, especially if this long lockdown is extended for longer periods of time. He's asking how best he can manage the fear. It feels like what we have right now might become his normal way of living.
I'm inclined to believe that we are social beings.
Yeah.
And that if that is your personality, chances are you are not going to lose it. but you find yourself locked in a situation where, well, you can't go out, and you have somehow had a lot of success with, staying in. So how about we look at it as a new skill, as a new skill of I can be on my own. I already mastered being with other people. I like that enough, but should I need to be on my own, I now know that I can be.
Yeah.
And even when I have to go out there and meet other people, the same way you have managed to settle into being on your own is the same way you will settle into having to deal with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's now ruled out. We've
not ruled out, but it's another way to think about it.
What's the right word? Should I say rule out or worked out?
That's another way to think about that as well.
Okay. So we're moving on to loved ones and family. Although we talked about them a bit in the personal questions, you shared some infographics on mental health, and one of them had something to do with children. Yeah, we talked about the children as well. But what are the chances? How can people look at this period in a deeper way to protect the children from being affected by this lockdown?
Well, it's important for us to look at that infographic, like you have talked about it. We tried to put down some ways that the children need to be protected. I think it comes down to us remembering that children, yes, are very resilient.
Yeah.
But that resilience needs to be built. It needs to be nurtured. So whatever you do in the presence of a child, whatever you do to a child, whatever you do for a child, you need to have that consciousness. You need to have that thought, not even at the back of your head, of what is this going to do to this child?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll probably have an episode where I cover what you shared in the infographic because it's very much detailed. Then we go to Joanne. I think we covered that. How do you advise adults to work around their emotional well-being versus controlling parents? We covered that in the previous lecture.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Then how does there's someone, he came up with a proverb. There is an old saying, familiarity builds contempt. Since many people are spending more time together, citing spouses, siblings, relatives, and any other, familiarity is bound to happen, and so is contempt. How does one deal with contempt, either as a contemptuous one or when you're on the receiving end of the contempt?
By being aware of what can happen, therefore to what else is. And going back to seeing things a different way, an alternative perspective. Getting used to people is one thing.
That's a very important one.
To also see what is it that I appreciate about it. What is it that I maybe can't live without, but it makes them tick. If we are going to get very familiar with people, can we get familiar with the good side as well? What is it that we do well together?
Yeah.
Can we engage in shared activity and shared problem solving? I think when we start to look out for the good in people, genuinely make an effort, because certainly that effort is rewarding for us to along with almost anyone if you try. And for some people, it is by working with them. For some people, it is by being patient until they've said their piece and they go away. For some, so we become better and better at appreciating how to deal with the other person.
Yeah.
But let's challenge ourselves to look out for the good and to appreciate the good in others.
I think that's a very important one as well.
Mm.
And maybe after people who are already struggling with addiction.
Oh, yes.
And the times are triggering more of their addiction tendencies. How would you advise them to cultivate better versions of themselves without giving to their addiction?
Unfortunately, addiction is not something that we can take a one shot at, you know.
I actually feel like it's a personal thing where it should be addressed on a one-to-one.
On a one-to-one basis. For some people, it is working out that you are not getting access. You know, this is how addiction happens. You take, let's say, any drug for the first time and it makes you feel happy, it makes you feel high.
Yeah.
But then you come back down.
Oh, yeah.
And as high as you felt is as bad or even worse as you're going to feel when you come back down.
Yeah.
So, of course, feeling high is better than feeling down.
Yeah.
So you take another dose. But you see, the way our brains work or our bodies is the first dose you took. Some people have said that they start to chase their first high.
Wow.
Because you start to need more and more of a dose to get you to that point, you know, which eventually is glorified even in your own mind. So, you know, you can't quite reach it. So for some time, you're taking the drug because you want to experience that high. But then, again, you're taking larger and larger doses to get that high. And also the low is becoming stronger and worse. And, you know, so there is that tipping point where you're no longer chasing the high, but running away from the low. Makes sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and then to the point that you will do just about anything to chase away the low. So for some people, in earlier stages of abuse and addiction, it's working out that we don't have access, so we do not use. And maybe they will be blessed that they will come out of this with a reduced urge. But, you know, the chance that you're going to get back in that place is always alive. You know, so beyond the physical craving, therapy helps you to deal with the psychological craving and to create a world where it is easier for you not to use.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a whole range of things. If you're trying to quit drinking, why should you buy wine bottles and keep them in the house?
Oh.
Why should you still use that path that goes by the bar? Are meetings really is a bar the best place for meetings? So when it comes to, you know, addict therapy, that's a whole range of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now for someone, because now we have a possibility of someone who's stocked on alcohol. And they're now on their own in their houses. At every turn, they're taking a sip.
Okay, so I have, when we get off the podcast, I will share with you a contact of one of my colleagues. Her name she runs a program called Fight Drug Abuse Uganda.
Yeah.
And she has had some really good successes with helping people deal with addiction.
Oh, wow.
I'm happy to share her contacts, and that's something you can share around.
That's very important because someone about 2 days ago, let me see, today is Thursday. Someone texted me on Wednesday Tuesday asking me what I knew about a rehab place to deal with addictions. I think that's a very important contact for me to pass on to her as well.
Yes, I will share that.
Okay, now there's a question here from Eunice. She's asking for the best way to help those around us in regards to protecting their mental health.
Share the lessons that we have discussed. Share the lessons that you have, the things that have worked really well for you. You know, when you're speaking from a point of experience, you explain something better. Yeah, so let's share. Let's share mental health as much as we are sharing, or more than we are sharing all the scary news.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Then, someone here, Christine. She's asking, how is quarantine contributing to the increased levels of divorce and domestic violence across the globe?
That is more of a statement than a question.
It's more than?
It's more of a statement than a question. Quarantine is contributing to domestic violence and abuse, you know,
we've had
because people are not able to get out of, and this is one of the things that we need to respond to, especially child protection agencies and you know, the government and organizations. This is a call really to pay more attention to what is going on inside the homes, and you know, I think one of the things that is going to be very important is to have a helpline for people that are not able to, you know, get out of the situation. The teachers may be off duty. They may not be teaching, but they know, a lot of times they know children that are more vulnerable. So we need to work out a program to be able to reach these children. We need a whole system. This is something that we really need to get on as soon as possible. Yeah.
Wow. So I was actually looking at her question as I was relating it to the part where Dennis said familiarity builds contempt. And for the things that we weren't seeing before in our relationship, being in the lockdown makes them more clearer. We didn't know that the other person snores for about 8 hours. Now we're sleeping more. The person snores 12 hours. It's very irritating. Everything is just sinking in, and we're like, no, we can't actually stay with this person.
Yes. And again, remember our friend looking at it differently?
Oh, yes.
So there's always horrible things about this person, yes, fine. But there are also the things that attracted you to them in the first place. What is it that you can do to regrow this relationship? Because, I mean, you could spend time being very frustrated, or you could make an effort in the other direction. Hey, someone once asked me that why don't baby birds fight?
Why don't
baby birds fight? And the answer was that because they don't want to fall out of the nest. So,
that's a nice one.
Yes, so you could fight each other and get very frustrated about socks on the floor and toilet seat left up and, you know, and even
outside the toilet.
Yes, it can be very satisfying in the short term. But what is more satisfying in the long term is to choose to do the work. Choose to put in what it takes to, you know, build your relationship. I've asked some people, what is your quarantine story going to be? That I became worse, or I took a moment to do the work that it would take so that I come out of this
a better version of myself.
A better version of myself. At the end of the day, the things that are really, really going to make a difference in your life, you are the one who is going to do the work.
Yeah.
It's not going to be some donor somewhere. It's not going to be some therapist somewhere.
Mm.
It has to be, you have to be willing
To do the
to
work.
make the effort. Yes. And when you come up against a roadblock and you have some questions and etc., then Lynda comes in. But Lynda is never ever going to come and is never going to say the words "I love you," excuse me, or "Can we talk about this?" for you. You are the one to do that.
Yeah.
One of the core values of Free to Live is authenticity and encouraging people to take personal responsibility. It has to be you. What is your role? What is your part? To give over your power to someone else, to say we would have been doing ABCD Nayaro, but the other person also does this. No.
What
you
about
need
you?
to take personal responsibility, and learning to do that, it takes work, it takes time, but step by step, and it is infinitely satisfying. I know lots of things in our culture teach us to let someone else do, and it's the popular discourse. It reminds me of the statement, government etuyambe. My heart breaks every time I hear that. But you see, those are the messages we are always getting. Sometimes my students say to me, Madam, you gave me a retake, and I'm thinking, I gave you? You know? For the longest time, we have been raised with being, we think it is someone else's fault. Someone has to do it. My parents have to. No. What do you do?
Yeah.
That is going to take changing of the whole fabric of our society, but that is what our culture is. Yeah. Our culture is about taking personal responsibility. I think we've just missed it somewhere along the way, but we are a very hardworking lot. Let's not take the shortcuts that people have given us. Yes.
We really love the shortcuts.
Let us do that. Let us make the porridge, the real maize porridge that you watch for hours, instead of the quick instant everything. It is sweeter. It is worth it. Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, I'm playing this back in my head and I went all theoretical. But the point is, let us do the work.
Yeah.
Number one, it is possible for us to do the work. Number two, it is worth it. Yeah.
Well, so now we're looking at the last two questions.
Okay. Is it? Do I sound like a bad person to be excited?
No, you're not at all. Okay. You don't sound like a bad person. You're sounding like a very helpful person.
There you go.
So we're looking at the post-COVID time. Anthony is asking how we can cater for the mental health of the people who are going to be stigmatized by community after contacting the virus. And he also cited the relatives to the victims who are bound to get a lot of media attention. But then on my side, onto his question, I added the health workers as well, because I read somewhere that the health workers are likely to be stigmatized as well. The health workers dealing with the victims of the virus.
This might sound like a mini statement to say, but in a roundabout way, we have had plenty of practice as communities, as health workers, as mental health service providers. We have had plenty of practice dealing with stigma for HIV, for tuberculosis, and we have learned, it has been horrible. It has been horrible to go through that, but we have learned precious lessons that we can now apply to coronavirus.
Yeah.
And so the messages that, destigmatize disease are going to continue to go out, and to focus more on the facts. If I contracted coronavirus and I hid, it's not because I'm trying to kill people and I'm heartless. It's because I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So we need to address that fear. And also that people that stigmatize, it comes out of one, not having any knowledge about the situation, but also their personal fears about the situation. So we'll have to give a lot of information to talk publicly about these issues. And we've learned a lot of lessons from HIV. And, and we are going to have to draw on those lessons. Yeah.
Final question.
Yay!
From a Nigerian brother of mine.
Okay.
Buravari is asking, after the lockdown, how best was the employers help their employees to heal and return to work to do their jobs effectively?
How best people are going to cope after the lockdown also has to do with how you are handling the lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you start to prepare people before they come back to work. One amazing organization has asked me to have a phone call with each of their staff members. Of course, now that was part of our arrangement from the free online counseling, and they paid for the service.
Yeah.
And some people might have looked at it as, oh my God, they have money to waste. But no, it is an investment. Thank you. In the health of their employees, because your company is as good as the health of your employees. It's a good thing that we are on the last question, because that sound is coming back. I don't know if you hear it.
I know. I heard it, and I was like,
yes.
Not now.
So
not now.
Start now to prepare your employees for, ultimately their readiness to return to work is partly influenced by their perception of their employer, how much their employer cares about them as individuals.
Yeah.
And the whole human resource management comes into play there. So the short answer is start to prepare now.
And if the employer is not doing the work, you're going to do the work, I guess.
Well,
preparing yourself for the aftermath.
Yes.
Because if you're killing yourself right now, I'm not sure you're going to come out alive.
Yeah. One of the questions I've been asking people is, so what plans after COVID? And it has been helpful for some people to actually write those plans down, because then you have a visual in front of you, and you can actually think through it and prepare and continue to prepare yourself mentally. So as work, as a person, as an individual, intellectually, whatever it is that you're looking forward to doing or changing, now is a good time to start to visualize it.
Thank you so much, Lynda.
Oh, Nabubuzuchuanuka.
You have reached the end of this episode of Hashtag with Nabubuzuchuanuka. I hope that you have gotten yourself tips to take you through these additional 21 days. For those who need the psychologist contact information, visit the podcast's Facebook page, that is Hashtag with Nabubuzuchuanuka. You'll find her details on a post related to this episode. Have a great day.